All right, I have something exciting I want to show. I've been working on creating a plugin to help clinics use AI and make the writing sound like their voice. So you can use it for social media posts, for articles, patient handouts, all that sort of stuff. And you basically run through the setup one time. It should save all of the kind of unique brand voice guidelines for your particular clinic. And then you go to do any writing in the future inside of your project, it will use those guidelines and provide better results. So to get a plugin installed, you're going to go over here to the cowork tab, and then you'll download the plugin at the school community. Over here, hit plugins, manage plugins, hit add, and you're going to choose upload plugin. And over there, you just paste in the file. All right, don't make the same mistake as me. I accidentally unzipped the folder before I tried to upload it. So I'll do that again. This time I'll just choose the zipped file, and we'll see here it allows me to hit upload. Now that I have this plugin installed, we can see there's 3 separate skills. There's the setup skill, the update skill. So this is, let's say you decide, hey, we need to sound more like this, or I don't like when we use this word. You would use this particular skill and it would update your voice document so that it knows that for future. And then the actual writer itself, which is what we would use anytime we're writing any articles. So now that we have that installed, we can close out. And when we come here to plugins, we'll notice there's a new brand voice. We'll just run the brand voice setup, and it will start to ask us a series of questions. This can take a little bit of time, so I'm going to pause the video and then I'll show you after I filled out everything. Okay, so it has presented these particular questions. I've gone through and went ahead and filled them out for one of my clients, and then it asks, what kind of content would we create, as well as anyone that we admire. So you could put in, if you don't have a bunch of content to feed the AI, you could also use some ear content, show Claude some that you enjoy, and then it'll help kind of choose your writing style. So we'll hit continue, and it'll go and do a bunch of research. It should look at the site, pull these articles, so that way it kind of clearly knows. And if you're ever curious about where you're at, over here on the progress side, it clearly shows which step we're on. So we're still in the gathering raw materials. Now it'll start to move on to analyzing sources and reflecting it, as well as providing a bunch of interview questions that we go along with. So I can see here that it's actually reading the about page. It looked at this particular article. Again, I'll pause for a second, and then once it has finished all the research, I will come back. All right, so I went through and did the research, and now it's kind of came up with some more additional questions. So I will just answer these. So it'll go through probably this iteration a handful more times until it feels extremely confident that it understands your brand voice for both articles, which this one, considering I primarily gave it articles, I'm going to guess that's going to be the part it feels most confident in. But when we come to ensuring that the social media posts and things like that sound good, it might ask me more and more questions, and you can kind of keep going back and forth on it for as long as you want, right? You can do as many rounds of this and just keep saying, hey, ask me more clarifying questions until you feel that it truly understands. And then it will start to test out, some writing and do your opinion and feedback on it. So I'm going to kind of run through this whole setup skill real quick, because I do want to get to actually showing you how to use it as well as how to provide feedback. So give me 1 second. Okay, it has gone through and asked me all the questions. So some questions include, do I use I, first person, second person, warm and conversational, any specific phrases you want to continue saying over and over again, and then differences between the blog, social media, stances on whether or not to use emojis. So all sorts of different stuff. And then you'll see here, it kind of gives you an example of each of these. So if we look at this, one thing that you won't notice are any M dashes or any emojis, which I feel like are 2 things that AI will tend to implement all the time. So again, you can go back and forth until these 3 look perfect. But let's say you've done that, everything looks good, and it's time to actually use it. That's when you would use the brand voice writer. So you would just type in that, and then you can say like, where any post about BBB increasing in the winter or something like that. And then now it will go through, it'll ensure that its writing matches your kind of tone and style, and then present you the feedback. And then once it generates the actual post, I'll show you how you can continue to refine it over time, because the first time doing this, it's probably not going to be perfect. It's going to be maybe 90% of the way there, but to get that extra 10%, that's where every single post you're giving it feedback on what it needs to do. Okay, so we can see here that it ended up drafting this, and it kind of mentions, we're not using emojis or hashtags of first person, and we're doing it first person because that's what you want. But let's say, this is okay, but I actually do want to start to use emojis in social media posts. So you would come over here to the brand voice, and that's where you would use the update. And then you can just tell it what you need. So I'm thinking about it more, and for Instagram, I actually do want to use emojis in the posts. Ideally 2 to 3 per post. Then you just hit enter and it'll go. It might ask you some questions just to clarify, and then it will update your kind of brand voice document so that the next time you go to do the post, it will be more in your style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this finish all the way through, and then I'll create a brand new chat where we try it all over again after it's been given this feedback. Okay, so it finished up, and then it shows kind of what it looks like. I think if we go to new task and I do the exact same prompt, it should naturally have it this time without me having to even cue it. All right, and we can see that it has now added 2 emojis, which is what we added. So hopefully those 3 things should get you started to where you can write or have Claude help you write articles, social media posts, patient handouts, and whatever else, but it actually sounds like your clinic. It doesn't just sound like Gaslight. So let me know what you think. I will put this actual skill and plugin, if you want to download it, in my school community. So if you just come over here, go to classrooms, in this free skills, there will be a plugin for the brand voice that you can download the file and then upload it just like we talked about in this video. All right, thanks.